Are we back?
You're back.
Okay.
I lost you just as I was
Just-
about to say something.
Don't you know it?
That's okay. Timing is everything. Please stand by.
Yeah.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Oh,
I feel like almost like throwing up a color bar
Yeah.
right there, like in the old days. So exactly. All right, we're recording, by the way.
Oh,
so,
great. All right.
Yes, it makes even better. Hi, everyone. All right, we'll start off from that lovely cheesy announcing voice I do. On this week's episode, we're talking the record debut for Avengers Infinity War. How well did The Walking Dead wrap up its final battle? How well did The Walking Dead wrap up its final battle? The winners and losers of the NFL draft? And which movies do we think you should see this summer? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. Welcome back, everyone. We are once again live and hopefully in your earphones. It is the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly thank you for tuning in each and every week to both of our programs that we have on the Pop Culture Cosmos channels, on online radio, and all over the place on our podcast networks. Josh is somewhere this place. We've got the man, the myth, the legend from the podcast. He is here to break down the entire show with me. It is my good friend, Mr. Tyler. What's going on, man?
How are you, my good man? It's good to see you.
Always great to see you as well. Always great to have you here as part of the Pop Culture Cosmos. And you are filling in very nicely, as you always do, right on today's show. I want to get everything out of the way right now. We are going to be talking spoilers for both Avengers Infinity War and also as well The Walking Dead Season 8, the first half hour of the show. So I just want to let everyone know out there. Just want to make sure that everybody knows that as well. But it's going to be a great show because we are the record debut. We are going to be talking about The Walking Dead Season 8, how it wrapped up. I have Daphne Matthew from the Walking Dead fan base, one of the largest Walking Dead fan groups anywhere. She's going to be breaking down how Season 8, how this final battle in Season 8 ended up. Did she like it? Did she not like it? And also, she's going to give you what the feedback out there is in regards to what happened in Season 8. Plus, also as well, Tyler Baker and I are going to be breaking down the NFL draft. And also, we're going to give you our picks for the summer movie season later in the episode. But first, my friend, it is Avengers Infinity War.
Man.
It exploded, man, out on the screen. I'll tell you what, it made a humongous record-winning amount of money, over $250 million this weekend at the box office, breaking the record that was held by Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and over $630 million worldwide in its first weekend, few days in release, because I know a couple other places it came out actually as early as Wednesday. But yes, 630 million worldwide. Amazing. Yeah, I know, because people were expecting maybe a high 400, maybe a low 500, but it destroyed all those records. I'll tell you what, the movie itself was just an incredible event from start to finish. It is out there. Everybody's talking about it. It's just amazing way to get things going as far as a new phase in the Marvel Cinematic Universe after 18 films and 10 years of great Marvel of awesome Marvel goodness.
Yeah.
My friend, I'm going to leave it to you first off. Your thoughts on Avengers Infinity War. And again, I'm going to tell everybody out there for the next few minutes, we've got nothing but spoilers we're going to talk about when it comes to Avengers Infinity War.
Well, my recommendation would be to find a nice, comfortable theater. It is a 2.5-hour movie, so find one that has the reclining seats, maybe an IMAX 3D. if you have that available to you as well. It is an amazing movie, but it is long. It's 2.5 hours, but I'll tell
Actually,
you,
2 hours, 40 minutes. Actually,
two,
even longer
okay.
than that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, you're not going to be bored. There are no slow, dragging parts in this movie because the Marvel Cinematic Universe has so many characters that they have developed now, and they did a really good job of peppering everyone in there. I of all of them, I guess Guardian of the Galaxies is probably my favorite, and that whole crew was a big chunk of this movie, and so there's a lot of funny moments. Iron Man's another big part of this one, and so be prepared to have a couple laughs, a couple chuckles, and be prepared to be absolutely devastated by what happens at the end of this movie. It was you could feel it in the theater as Thanos actually wins, and about half of the Avengers just dissipate into clouds of ash. So this is not one of those movies where, oh, things are getting close, but the good guys win. The good guys do not win in this. Half of them survive. It's mind blowing.
Well, I will say this. For me, it was such an awesome experience, but I've never really experienced something as far as that much tension. You talked about the reclining seats and whatnot. I actually went to a theater that did have the reclining seats, but I couldn't relax. I've never been to a movie before for that long period of time where I felt in my body so much tension and nervousness about who's going to live and who's going to die. I was at the edge of my seat. I know literally, I know that's a cliche. I know I'm throwing it out there, but
No, you're right.
I was literally at the edge of my seat. And as these individuals were either being killed off in the earlier parts of the movie, like Gamora, like Loki, like
Loki,
Heimdall,
yeah.
or they were being saved for last as far as when Thanos, like you said, wins out and destroys half the universe as far as the population is concerned, which includes half of the Avengers, literally
Yeah.
one by one, where it was Black Panther, whether it was the Winter Soldier, whether it was Scarlet Witch, the Vision actually just got knocked off just before that happened as well. So, so many names out there that just are truly special to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're as of right now, they're either people have theorized maybe they were sucked up by the Soul Stone or just dissipate entirely. So right now, obviously, there's a lot of mystery and
Yeah.
intrigue about what is going to happen in the Avengers Part 4 next year, and how are they going to have to be able and how are they going to be able to get those individuals back to life? Because in the case of Black Panther, the dude just made $1.3 billion dollars.
I
You know they're going to bring him back to life some
know.
form of
I
fashion.
know. And when he first came on scene in that movie, I could hear people around me going, yeah, there he is. Yeah. And, it's funny. You're going to be talking about The Walking Dead on this episode. This movie reminded me a lot of The Walking Dead in that it's really big characters are dying. It really reminded me of, okay, nobody's sacred, nobody's safe. Anybody at any moment could go in this movie. I mean, the opening scenes, Loki dies, and it just keeps happening. And then, man, the last 2 minutes of the movie, absolutely, the theater that I was in was dead silent. People just could not believe what they were seeing, and for a movie to be able to do that, it's awesome.
Well, there was so much silence, like you said, at the end of the latter part, because we were actually, like you said, just in my theater as well, where they were talking about how just basically when they started dying off, people just started to cry, especially
Yeah.
Spider-Man when he passed. I know
Yeah.
there was a row of half a row. There was half a row of Spider-Man fans dressed in Spider-Man costume,
Oh,
and you could hear them sobbing as he was perishing. Although
man.
Sony's not going to give that up, man. As well, he's going to come back as well.
Well, one of those stones is the time stone, and we
Yes, the
kind of
time
got to
stone, but
see it
also
in
the
action.
soul stone as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, maybe they set the groundwork for an avenue to get control of these stones back, and maybe make things right that were wronged. Who knows? But for right now, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is devastated.
It is, and the Infinity Gauntlet itself, if you notice, after Thanos just snapped his fingers, the Infinity Gauntlet itself was damaged, could be destroyed because it was all charred and it already done its magic. As well, dark magic, whatnot. I will say, and I will actually break this down even further with Josh later in the week on our Friday show, the PCC Multiverse. Sorry. Noise. Thanos, played by Josh Brolin, did an amazing job of convincing you that he was not 100% evil and whatnot. That he had a purpose, that he had a mission to what he was doing, that he had in his own mind legitimate reasons for carrying out the destructive nature that he was doing.
And he's not a typical villain, like you said, that's just pure evil. And this movie did a really good job of continuing to develop that character. In the other movies, he's more of just kind of this nemesis, and you really didn't know a lot about him. The flashbacks with his daughter, and then the sacrifice that was made, and the emotion that was shown. You're right. It does touch on, like, hey, there are two sides to this evil, and he is completely evil. I mean,
but he's not insane, because he's thinking out things in a logistical fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess you could what am I trying to say? I guess you could compare him to like a Joseph Stalin. I mean, I don't know, but maybe we could cut that part out.
Don't worry, I will. But I could, everything was cold and calculated. But as even said himself during the course of the movie, it was a logistical way to try and combat the issues of overpopulation and the drain on resources, because there's a finite amount of resources in the universe, and he was acting in the only way that he thought was reasonable and sensible to him. And that unfortunately meant the death of a lot of individuals beforehand, and then after he gained all the stones in the Infinity Gauntlet. I was surprised that he was actually able to get all the stones. And then furthermore, I was surprised that he was actually able to carry out his snap and actually wipe out. That was a big thing, because we had been leaded in and thought that maybe Cap is going to die in the battle, but they're going to save the day, or Iron Man might perish, but the day might be saved. Turns out almost everybody from the earlier part, in fact, pretty much everybody from the earlier part of the phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is still alive in some form or fashion. I think really when it starts down to it, I think Winter Soldier and Falcon are the first individuals that have been there longest that I think get knocked off first. That get knocked off as far as being dissipated with the snap of the fingers from Thanos. But I want to hear again more breakdown from you, as far as it is a 2 hour and 40-minute movie. There are some parts I would have maybe changed. I would have added in and out as far as that's concerned. I think the interplay and I think the location mixing was done about as well as you can, because the Russos, Anthony and Joe, the directors, both had a tough task of trying to put all these elements and trying to put them into one movie. And I think they did about as good a job as you're going to do in regards to crafting such a huge adventure.
You're right. And getting all of those locations to be fluid with all the characters that were being introduced, characters that we know, but threading them into the storyline. I can only imagine how difficult it was on day one to try to figure out how to do this movie. But I think they did a really good job. I had a little bit of question about why Hulk was cowering, and why Banner had to have a Hulk-sized iron suit. That seemed a little weird to me.
Well, he got his rear end kicked by Thanos, and he was actually, it seemed like for the first time,
he was
the
scared.
Invincible and the Invincible and Almighty Hulk was actually scared to actually show his face at some certain point, which I think was a interesting dynamic when you really think about it.
It was, but that's not the Hulk I know.
Well, maybe that's why they were putting it in that case, so
Yeah.
that in Avengers Part 4, because I believe is alive, could actually come back as the Hulk at some point in time. Because now obviously things are changed now that half the galactical population is gone, just like that. So
sure. So I guess it is setting up a storyline for the next movie, and that how is the Hulk going to be incredible again, and um but there were a lot of points in this movie where they were interjecting some fun humor in, and you come to expect that from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it was good to see it in this movie, even with the dark overtones that were happening in the movie. There still managed to be a couple of chuckles, and I think they gave a lot of opportunity for each one of the characters to be involved. I was surprised that Captain America wasn't a little bit more involved.
I know
Uh,
that's one of the things, and also Winter Soldier
yeah,
as well. That group right there pretty much didn't get, which includes Falcon, also
yeah,
as well, Black Widow. They didn't get as much of the spotlight as maybe some people were hoping for. Also, Black Panther in the end, and Black Panther and anyone from that movie also kind of got, even though the last major the last major
battle.
battle took place in
Yeah.
Wakanda, a lot of the individuals involved with that movie didn't really get a whole lot of screen time as well.
Well, that's why it was a 2 hour 40-minute movie and not a 3 hour movie. Because
Well, maybe that's the case. It did focus a little bit too much on the Thor thing. Maybe cut that down for a little bit, but it was still entertaining what was there. I also think that the Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe they were too, they were maybe out, especially when it comes to Peter Quill. Star Lord character was made out to be too dense as far as an individual compared to the other individuals there, matching up his dialogue back and forth and banter back and forth made him come across as dumb on certain occasions. And I understand that the Guardians of the Galaxy are a bunch of misfits put together,
Mhm.
and in some cases just are not really that high up on the intellectual food chain. But as a whole, at least they were able to go ahead and in their movies being able to stand out and come up with their own plans. And I know Peter Quill ultimately came up with the plan that almost got the Infinity Glove off, but still,
Mhm.
their back and forth, I guess, with the other Avengers made them come across like a kid brother, like a stepbrother, like a kid brother, or something like that. That was kind of annoying, and
Well,
it's kind of a shame for a group that's made so much money for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
well, and it was Peter Quill's mistake that led to the glove actually not coming off.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So.
further to your point on that, but in the rest of those movies, he is kind of dumb, and it seems like he has a lot of dumb luck going for him. He's a guy that's not the smartest, but he's got the good heart, and in the end,
Well, it just seemed
good,
like
good
they
things
made all
happen.
of them like even dumber than they normally are in their own
Sure.
movies, which I thought it was kind of a little bit of a blow, but it's a very small one. And then like I said, also as well, maybe a little bit less on the Thor, but those are just small nitpicky points. This
Mhm.
was, like I said, a very big challenge for the Russos, and they delivered, in a beautiful manner. The ending of the movie and the closeout of the movie, which came as a complete surprise to many, including
Yeah.
myself, on the
Yeah, me
kind
too.
of carnage.
Me
The
too.
kind of carnage that was there was just truly, it was gutsy, and I think it was the right call to make.
And this movie will move you. When you watch it, you get involved, these characters, you see them working together. You by now already know this supervillain, and you get to know him a lot more, and you get to see this other side of him. this movie will emotionally move you. And I know when I go watch a movie, I want something that's going to be thought provoking, something that's going to move me, something that's going to enthrall me. And this movie did that. This is such a good movie. I think it is genuinely one of the best movies I've ever seen. Now, you would have to have seen some of these other Marvel movies for these characters to, for you to already be endeared to these characters, for this movie to really have the impact that it is meant to have. But man, I 100% agree. This is a great, great movie. And I cannot wait to go see it again in the theaters. I'm probably going to go again tomorrow.
I am going to go sometime, hopefully next week as well. And I definitely encourage everyone to do so. But if you have not become familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you do need to check out at least one of those intros as far as breakdowns that you can catch on YouTube or whatever geek or pop culture site that you're looking for as far as a breakdown. Familiarize yourself with the Marvel Cinematic Universe somewhat, or else even 3 hours is going to be 2 hours and 40 minutes of being lost a little bit in time and time again, looking for explanations as far as what's going on and where's it going on and why is it doing this and why is Thanos doing that and why are the Avengers doing this. There's going to be some questions that need to be asked if you are not familiarized yourself, at least in a little bit, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But overall, it is a tremendous experience. I highly recommend it. Tyler recommends it too, and we just cannot say enough good things about it. Any last thoughts on Avengers Infinity War, my friend?
I have no idea what they're going to do with the next movie, and that makes me want to see it even more.
Exactly, because it does feel like this is a part one, and that was the original intent. It was called originally Infinity War Part 1.
Okay.
So even though they gave it its own name and they're going to give the second one a different name, it does feel like a part 1 because Thanos does win out. And Thanos is just sitting there chilling because he said what he was going to. He's doing what he said he was going to do and what he set out to do. He accomplished his mission, and he's just all. He thinks he's all,
And he's sitting there with this sense of accomplishment, and the smile comes on his face after doing this completely evil thing. Oh my gosh, it's mind blowing.
But in his mind, he's actually saving the universe as a whole. So basically, like I said, he did a tremendous job. He is the thing that powers the movie. He is the entity that powers the movie the most. And I will tell you right now, it is a tremendous, tremendous job done again by the Russo brothers. And you should definitely make an effort to go see Avengers Infinity War in the theaters because it is truly an event worth watching. What are your thoughts on Avengers Infinity War? If you haven't seen already, you got to go check it out. But if you have, what did you think? Did you like all the carnage? Did you like all the deaths that were out there? Did you really enjoy the actual movie as a whole? Did you think it was too long? Did you think it was exhausting? Or did you really think it needed that much time to tell out its great narrative? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, Game Source, or Fantasy Football Pater Podcast on Facebook. You just look for any one of those entities, including the Fantasy Football Pater Podcast. They're a great Facebook group if you really follow. It's the best place to. And also check out all of us on Twitter if you can on this. Like I said, it's going to be a great program we've got for you today. We've got Daphne Matthew from The Walking Dead fan base up next to talk The Walking Dead Season 8, closing of The Walking Dead Season 8, the final battle with Negan and Rick, and how she felt the season shaped out. Plus, after that, Tyler and Baker. Tyler and I are going to be back for our thoughts on the NFL draft. And also, as we close out the show, we're going to be talking what we think the movies you should see this summer. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glass. Thank you so much for sticking around with us, and we truly appreciate you being around here and listening into our great program. Want to make sure and let you know our shows are being streamed 7 days a week on online radio stations, and that we deliver 2 brand new shows covering the latest in pop culture each and every week. each and every week, every Monday and Friday to Apple Podcasts or our over 30 different podcasts now. Subscribe to any one of them on the Pop Culture Cosmos channel to get extra content, or just check out the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page. For our entire radio schedule and a list of those podcast networks. And don't forget the Fantasy Football Pater Podcast Facebook group. You got to join up today if you're a fan of football or you really want to get the leg up on the upcoming football season for all you fantasy football players out there. Speaking of football, the NFL draft just concluded this weekend. A lot of great things going on. A lot of not so great things going on if you're some certain teams that made some lousy choices. But, while we don't know 100% how this is all going to work out, I know, Tyler, you have some thoughts on the winners and losers for the NFL draft. Your thoughts on the best 3 or 4 teams that you think made out in this year's 2018 NFL draft.
Well, we don't know. We can come back and ask questions about 2018, maybe in 2020 or 2022. You just don't know. Teams have needs, and how they position themselves in the drafts to either take the best player or fill positional needs. Those are decisions that are made in rooms with men that are very, very qualified to do that. So we can only sit on the outside and kind of guess a little bit. But there were some interesting things in this draft. The Cleveland Browns, if you're going to talk about the 2018 draft, you have to talk about the Cleveland Browns and what they did. They had the number 1 and the number 4 overall picks. I thought maybe they were going to trade down and maybe accumulate some 2nd and 3rd round picks. That ended up not happening. And with their first pick, they take Baker Mayfield, which I don't think many people were expecting at all. I don't think anyone thought that he was the best quarterback in this draft class, and he certainly was not the best player. And if you're going to use your number 1 overall pick, you want it to be a safe pick, and they did not go safe pick with Baker Mayfield. But what they did get is they got a quarterback who his teammates love him. He has good character. He was the most accurate quarterback in this draft. Now, that's probably just because he throws a lot of those shorter passes. And what they managed to do is they managed to pair him with, remember, Tyrod Taylor is now in Cleveland. So similar quarterback. Both of them are athletic. Both of them can use their legs. Tyrod Taylor could be a really good mentor for Baker Mayfield. And for fantasy purposes, I think the big winner has got to be Jarvis Landry. Amazing slot receiver, is already catching a lot of balls, especially in PPR. That guy could be a monster this year. He fits in very well to what Baker Mayfield's skill set is. And so this could be a new look Browns offense. Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson. Oh, and they picked up Nick Chubb, who I really like. They got him in the 2nd round. That guy is a bruiser. He is a very good running back that I think is going to complement well. Whereas Isaiah Crowell was kind of the early down back, but he could kind of do it all. I think Nick Chubb is more of a early down back. Now with their number 4 overall pick, because they had 2 picks in that 1st round. They did get Denzel Ward, which was a little bit of a question mark because maybe he shouldn't have gone that high. But again, the Browns needed a shutdown corner. They want that magic that they had with Joe Hayden years ago. So whereas in their first 2 picks, they got a questionable quarterback and maybe a cornerback that went too high. But from the Browns' point of view, those might be the guys that they absolutely needed for their team. We don't know. We're just on the outside looking in. But it was interesting that they did not trade down and try to accumulate more picks. They liked where they were, and they did manage to infuse a lot of new talent in that offense. They beefed up the offensive line with Austin Corbett. And later on in the draft, peppered some guys in, a couple receivers and other defensive players as well. So the Cleveland Browns, I think, are going to get the most critiquing for what they did as far as in this draft. But I think that so far, the new regime there in Cleveland, I think they did a pretty good job in addressing needs for their team.
Well, is there a couple other teams that stick out? Because I also want to touch on the quarterbacks here in a minute. But
Sure.
other teams that stuck out for some great picks that you think are really going to help their team going forward?
You have to look at the Indianapolis Colts. They've needed to take care of Andrew Luck. They haven't. That offensive line has been terrible. Andrew Luck has missed a lot of games in the last couple years. So the Indianapolis Colts answered by spending a couple high draft picks on some offensive linemen. And that is imperative if they expect to keep Andrew Luck healthy, if they expect that offense to run through their franchise quarterback, if they want to keep him on the field, they needed to invest in the offensive line, and they did a really good job of doing that in this draft.
Now, we discussed, like I said, before the draft, I actually sent you some comments on the quarterback so that all were rumored to be going in and around the top spot. One thing that I'm going to say right now is there was no definitive number one quarterback. There was no quarterback that stood out as far as head and shoulders above the rest. Like you said, like we had talked about, there was issues with pretty much each and every one that was being considered for that top spot. Baker Mayfield, I think his height and also his overconfidence might be scary to some. With Sam Darnold, the fact that he is he creates a lot of turnovers as far as just interceptions, but he fumbles the ball a lot. In his second year of college, really concerns a lot of people out there as well. Josh Rosen, he fell down. I think a lot of it is due to health because he could never stay healthy when he was with UCLA, even though I think of the actual quarterbacks, he might have the most talent. Josh Allen, or is it Josh? Allen, what's his first name? Wyoming kid.
You're right. It's not Josh.
I got that. It is Josh Allen.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
So Josh Rosen, Josh Allen. Yeah.
Yeah. Josh Allen of Wyoming. Basically, it's the competition playing at Wyoming. He might have had the best natural talent of any of them, but the competition that he faced, is that going to be an issue because he needs to really it's really going to be a step up from what he's used to playing, when he was at Wyoming. And Lamar Jackson, I guess there's an issue, even though he's extremely athletic. A lot of people do not have confidence in his accuracy or his arm strength. There's questions, like I said, with each and every one. I didn't think there was a definitive number one quarterback. Hopefully there will be at least one or two good quarterbacks that come out of this lot. But of them that I mentioned, was there any that stuck out to you as being one that might break out of the pack and people need to keep an eye on, especially all those fantasy football league owners out there?
Well, for fantasy, I definitely shy away from rookie quarterbacks. But if you're talking about the winners and losers, I think you have to look at the Ravens and how Ozzie Newsome managed to jump back up into the first round and get 2 first rounds picks and getting Lamar Jackson. Now, he doesn't have to bring Lamar Jackson into play right now. There's a very good veteran there in Joe Flacco that Jackson can learn behind. And I think it's really good for the franchise in that they know who their guy of the future is. They don't have to run him out there right now. And I think it'll be good for Joe Flacco to have somebody behind him to kind of push him. So if there's one guy that's really, I think was a really, really smart move, I think it was the Ravens getting Lamar Jackson. Now the other quarterbacks and where they fell, I can't say that there's one that really stands out. I think you would have to go look at New York. I think the Jets getting Sam Darnold. I think he's in a position where he can come in and play maybe sooner rather than later. But again, that remains to be seen. Rookie quarterbacks, it's just a big learning curve coming into the pros, and it's not very often that you have a rookie come. You don't often get a Deshaun Watson that'll come in and just light it up. It just doesn't happen very often. So for fantasy purposes, I'm not really paying that much attention, other than what I mentioned with Jarvis Landry. His skill set and how Baker Mayfield will approach the offense. I think there's a lot of room for that slot receiver to get a lot of targets. And of course, they're going to start the season with Tyrod Taylor, so we might not even see Mayfield early in the year. But I think Landry is going to be kind of the linchpin of that offense.
Also have
You there?
that next Dak. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just now. Yeah.
Okay. You also are going to be able to be hard pressed to find that next Dak Prescott from the like the Cowboys did, and that can just literally just jump right in and lead your team to a winning record, and also be able to provide the stats from it. So definitely, I agree with you on that. It is a big learning curve, and there's only a few quarterbacks that can transition from the college ranks and be able to master that game so quickly. One last thing. What? I'm sorry.
Real quick. Speaking of quarterbacks, I want to talk about the New York Giants not getting a quarterback at number 2. Honestly, I was a little bit surprised by it, but it makes really good sense. The New York Giants, they need help on that offensive line. They need a running game. Without help on the offensive line, without a running game, Eli Manning is going to continue spiraling downward. And so the Giants chose not to get a quarterback, but what they did do, and I thought it was really smart, they got a stud running back that they're going to have for quite a long time. I think that is probably going to make a better impact for the future of the New York Giants than taking a chance on one of these quarterbacks. Because what if you, with the number 2 pick, take a chance on a quarterback and it doesn't pan out? Well, with Saquon Barkley, yeah, number 2 overall is really high to take a running back, but he's one of the best running backs that's come out in a very long time. And what he can do for that New York Giants offense will alleviate a lot of the pressure that Eli Manning is under, and probably help them get a couple more years out of Eli Manning. And so it's kind of pushing the problem off a little bit, but I think it was a really smart move.
One last thing one last thing on the NFL draft. Once again, I'm talking to Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast. You got to check out the Fantasy Football Pater podcast when the fantasy football season starts to gear up, and we're getting into as far as what picks you need to make and what decisions you need to make for your fantasy football team. There's no Pater podcast Facebook group, and also check out his show when it comes as it gets closer to football season. One last thing before we head on out, I want to ask real quick, who do you think made the poorest choices in the NFL draft? Because I know a lot of people are really, really going hard on the Seattle Seahawks on the fact that they basically are trying in a passing league to go backwards in time and trying to see if they can try and go ahead and revert back to a run dominant game. Is that something that stuck out to you? And are there any other teams that really made poor choices this year in the NFL draft?
There were a couple teams that just didn't have a lot to work with. The Texans didn't have a lot to work with. There were a couple of other teams that didn't have early round picks. But if you're looking at the losers, it is 100% Seattle. If you listen to my podcast last year, I was not high on Russell Wilson. I was not high on that team, period, because of their refusal to address the offensive line. And here we are, 2018, and they picked a punter. They traded up and got a punter before they started working on that offensive line. I don't know what these guys are thinking. Now, they're the professionals, and I'm just some dude on a podcast, but I don't understand how they can completely neglect the offensive line when Russell Wilson has been running for his life for the last couple of seasons. Have they learned no lesson from the Colts? Have they learned no lessons in watching Russell Wilson limping around on the field and still trying to make it happen? I just don't understand it. And even the picks that they made, I didn't think were very good. Yeah, they got a great punter. Good. That's great. But they didn't do anything to address the biggest need on that team. And that defense has been crumbling, and that defense is getting picked apart, and they waited, with the exception of Rashawn Green, they really waited to late in the draft to work on their defense. So their two biggest needs, I think they just completely rejected. But they got a great running back, and you know what? That's good. I think they took him too early, and I can understand the team's frustration in having all of these running backs that they have that just can't stay healthy. CJ Procise is a great athlete. He doesn't play because he's not healthy. Chris Carson gets hurt. They had a awful band-aid with Thomas Rawls and Eddie Lacy, and all these guys are getting hurt all the time. So I can understand how they would want to find some safety in a running back that they think that can stay healthy. But I just think they made bad decisions in not addressing the problems that their team really has. And instead they, I think, played to their anxieties about having a healthy running game. I don't know what they're doing there. And most of the commentary that I've read agrees with that they just neglected their needs.
Well, you look at the team as a whole now, it is not the Super Bowl team that we once knew. It no longer has the great defensive presence that it once had. Also, as well, it never had great wide receivers to really work off of. The offensive line, like you said, is anemic at best. The running backs, yes, they get hurt a lot. It's basically Russell Wilson, like you said, running for his life for 4 quarters, which is truly a shame because he is – I'm higher on him than you are, if given an opportunity in the NFL, but he hasn't had the opportunity since the last time they were in the Super Bowl. So,
well, yeah,
for me,
hey, don't get me wrong. Russell Wilson, I think, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, no. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a smart quarterback. He's got a great arm. He brings so much to the table. But Pete Carroll just expects him to go out there and run for his life. And they've had success in doing that. My problem isn't with Russell Wilson. My problem is the rest of that offense. Just like you said, they don't have any stud receivers. They got Jimmy Graham in there and took a couple years to figure out how to use him. And the whole time, the guy is just scrambling and scrambling and scrambling. That's not the direction that you want to continue your franchise in. You want to get guys around him. And you look at what the 49ers did. They spent high draft picks to put guys to protect the quarterback that they have now in Jimmy Garoppolo. You saw the Colts getting offensive linemen where they know that they've had need, and they suffered the consequences of that need because Andrew Luck didn't play last year. So all of these teams are kind of picking up on it. And why the Seattle Seahawks think that they can get a running game without an offensive line, I have no idea. It doesn't make sense to me.
Neither to me as well. And it's a shame because the once mighty Seahawks look like they're going to be falling hard based on their decisions in the NFL draft.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
Absolutely. Well, those are some again, Fantasy Football and many other podcast outlets, or get involved today with the Fantasy Football Pater Podcast Facebook group, and you can get in on the action and talk with everybody out there in that group about all the great things that are going on in fantasy football. What are your thoughts on the NFL draft? Did your team do what it needed to do in the draft, and as far as getting picks that would address their needs, or do you think that the teams that, or do you think that your team or another team that you really care for really made some poor choices this year in the NFL draft? Share us your thoughts. Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, Game Source. and Inside Sports, and also as well Fantasy Football Patriot Podcast on Facebook, Pop Culture Cosmos at yahoo.com, or Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Twitter. When we come back, Tyler and I are going to be breaking down the summer movie season and have our 5 picks on exactly which movies we think you should see this summer. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. We truly appreciate you sticking around with us. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Once again, this is Gerald Glassford, Tyler Baker, closing out the show. We just want to thank, again, Daphne Matthew from the Walking Dead fan base. So great to have her on talking The Walking Dead. Also as well, my good friend Tyler Baker right here. Thank you so much for subbing in for the disappearing Josh Peterson, who may not be coming back until 2019. He will be on the Friday episode. He didn't meet the same demise as half the galaxy population. So. Right. But we will be back on Friday talking about Avengers Infinity War. More spoilers to talk about and our deep thoughts on that. Plus, also, as well, we're going to be talking a lot about the video game industry and all the latest reportings from there and so much more. So check it out on the PC Multiverse when it hits on Friday and many days after on all those online radio stations we're on. But my friend, it is that time of the year. The annual Marvel movie comes out at in late April, or usually in late April. It kicks off the summer box office movie season. Oh yeah. And I wanted to go over, my friend, with you some of your choices on there. But first, let me break down to everyone out there just a little bit about some of the big movies that are coming out in the next few months. In May, the big movies that are coming out in May are Life of the Party with Melissa McCarthy. Also, as well, you've got that's coming out on May 11th. You also have Deadpool 2 coming out May the 18th. And you also have, after that, on Memorial Day weekend, May 25th, you've got Solo, A Star Wars Story. In June, the movies to look out for, I think, are Ocean's 8 on June 8th. Hereditary, also, that comes out on June 8th as a horror movie. Probably one of those nice, low-budget horror movies that's going to make a ton of money. Then you've got, let's see. Let me go back to, okay. Then you also have on June the 15th, The Incredibles 2, Tag, and Superfly. Those are all going wide on June the 15th. On the 22nd of June, you've got Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. On the 29th of June, you've got Sicario, Day of the Soldado. And also Uncle Drew coming out again, both on June 29th, plus also as well The Hustle and Sanju as well. Those are some movies to look out for in June. In July, you've got The First Purge, a continuance of the Purge iterations, and that is coming out on July the 4th. July the 6th, you've got Ant-Man and the Wasp, continuing Ant-Man and the Wasp, continuing that Marvel Cinematic Universe, although this takes place before the events of Infinity War. I believe it takes place right after Civil War, but obviously we'll know for sure when that movie comes out July the 6th. You've got on the 13th, you've got Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation, and Skyscraper with The Rock, starring in another probably highly critically acclaimed movie, just like Rampage, and I'm being totally facetious when I say that. On the 20th, The Equalizer 2 with Denzel Washington. I'm going to say it's a stretch, but I think he probably kills a lot of people in that movie. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. Both of those movies are coming out July 20th. On July 27th, Tom Cruise, guess what? He's in another Mission Impossible, and this time it's Mission Impossible Fallout and Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Teen Titans Go to the Movies. They're both coming out on July the 27th. And in August, we're going to go with Disney's Christopher Robin. That comes out on August 3rd. Mile 22, that's also very interesting, coming out on August 3rd as well. I believe that one is with Mark Wahlberg. Also as well, you've got The Spy Who Dumped Me. That's a comedy coming up on August 3rd as well. August 10th, you've got The Meg, which a lot of people are already just like as a sci-fi thriller, just already pooping on that one. That one's with Jason Statham and a lot of other well-known character actors fighting off this large water-based beast. Uh, that's coming up on that's coming up on August 10th. On August 17th, Alpha, that's coming out on August 17th. Also, as well, Slender Man, another horror movie. That one might be interesting as far as because of the well-known stories that are behind the Slender Man series, as far as not from a game standpoint, but also from a folk story standpoint. That's coming out on August 24th. Now that you heard me run down a lot of those movies, including also as well, let me not forget Replicas that comes out. That Replicas with Keanu Reeves, that comes out August 24th. Now that you heard me break down all those movies for May, June, July, and August, and again, there's a lot more movies that are coming out during those time periods, but I think I was just trying to point out some of the bigger entries that were coming out in those months. Now that I broke those down, share your thoughts with me on the 5 movies you think people should see or go out of their way to see when it comes to the summer movies coming out this season.
Well, after watching Infinity Wars, I feel like they're all going to be letdowns.
Good thing. That's a good point.
But staying in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you mentioned Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like you said, that is a prequel to Infinity Wars. I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm cool with. I like Ant-Man. He's fun. He's funny. He can do some cool stuff. And introducing a similar character in the Wasp, I think that's going to be an interesting film. Going to be looking forward to seeing that one.
And they're also going to explain most likely why he and she were not in Infinity War as far as not being there. And then also if they got wiped out as far as half the other population. That's something to think about as well.
Yeah, he was curiously absent from Infinity Wars. And maybe, like you said, Ant-Man and Wasp movie will answer why they were not there, because the universe was in peril.
Yes, there was
They
a
should
few
have been there.
I mean, Infinity War had its share of individuals that were familiar with in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that were not there. Ant-Man, Hawkeye, they're a couple of the most glaring omissions, but again, it might be explained why in the upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp. So break down even more. What you got, man? What else you got?
Well, staying along those lines, you know what? I think I like Chris Pratt. The roles that he takes are usually fun to watch. I think he did a really good job in the last Jurassic movie. And of course, there's another Jurassic movie coming out. And having seen the previews today while I was sitting waiting for Infinity Wars to start, it looked like more of what you can expect from Chris Pratt. Kind of a lovable character, good sense of humor, and then gigantic dinosaurs that want to eat you. This looks interesting. It looks like the powers that be are trying to weaponize the dinosaurs, and this looks like it could be a fun movie to watch. You know what you're going to expect. It's big dinosaurs, and they're going to scare you. But Chris Pratt in the last Jurassic movie had a way of communicating with the dinosaurs, so it might be fun to see him fighting for the dinosaurs against, militaries that want to weaponize the dinosaurs. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. I think it'll be a fun movie, a little bit scary. And of course, you get Jeff Goldblum coming back with in his role as Ian Malcolm, and it should be a good movie. I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
I would like to agree with you. I've never been high on the Jurassic Park series. I've seen all of them, but I don't go out to the theaters. I don't make an effort to go see those really 100% right away. I've just never been really enthralled with them. They've never really hooked me, but I will get a chance to see this. I may even actually break down and actually go see it at the theater this time around. They have been glorified slasher movies to me. But if people get a lot of thrills and enjoyment out of them, my gosh, then by all means, because they do have a formula, they stick to it, and really a lot of people seem to enjoy it, and more power to them if that's the case.
Well, a movie I know you're going to be standing in line to see is the Solo movie. Oh my gosh, saw a preview for it today. How does the scruffy head nerf herder get to be Han Solo? We're going to find out. It looks amazing. Of course, it's a Star Wars movie. I know you're going to be camping out to see it. I'll be in the tent next to you. Man, this is going to be the highlight of the summer for me. I loved Infinity Wars, but I grew up on Star Wars, and to see the story behind Han Solo, how he came to be who he is, I cannot wait to see this movie.
I will be wearing my Han Solo shirt. Rest assured. That is a tremendous. I've already said it on this show several times with the PC Multiverse and this show as well, that I am so excited. I am so excited for this movie as well. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are not as excited because it's not going to have too much of the Force and the Jedi and blah 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 blah. The usual Star Wars, the usual Star Wars hullabaloo. It's going to tell its own narrative. It is kind of like a heist movie, kind of like Ant-Man in the way, because Ant-Man was kind of a heist movie. It's going to be a little bit different, off the beaten path, but maybe that's just what the Star Wars universe needs right now. Sure. Is a great story that tells an awesome narrative within the confines of a non 100% force related type scenario, and that is dealing with, like we said, the Han Solo and his band of rogues, and Lando Calrissian, and so many others that are going to be involved there. How him and Chewbacca meet, maybe how he wins the Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian, and the whole 9 yards, the Kessel Run, and all that. Those great stories which we've heard and seen our main characters talk about, but we now hopefully will be able to see it and come to light at this point in time. So definitely looking forward to that as well. Probably also more than any other movie this summer as well. But
absolutely. And they had some problems with producing it, actually getting
with
the movie
directors.
made.
Yeah, they fired the directors, the guys behind the Lego movie. They fired them because of creative differences, and then they brought in Ron Howard to direct this one, and hopefully it's going to pay off with a great narrative. But this is not the first time that something like this has happened, because Rogue One also had similar issues as far as in the making of it. A lot of reshoots had to be done, just as with Solo. But hoping that this movie that comes out on May the 25th will be one worth watching, and one that we'll always remember as being part of the anthologies as part of the Star Wars universe. So,
well, I know he was certainly the most a likable character in the original trilogy. I know when I was a kid, I wanted to be Han Solo and not Luke Skywalker.
You and I both. But be that as it may, I know there are a couple more choices for you as well, I believe.
You know what? I'm looking forward to Ocean's 8. I've really enjoyed the Oceans franchise. They do a really good job with the twists and the turns and the characters, and I'm looking forward to an influx of new characters that we don't know yet. Now, Sandra Bullock stars in this, and she is going to be Danny Ocean's sister, George Clooney's character, his sister. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing a fresh new cast. Although I really liked the old cast of the Ocean's movies, a new cast in whatever heist that they're up to. Just seems like it's going to be a fun, entertaining, clever movie to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
I will say this, that like you, I am a big fan of the Ocean series. I have seen all three films numerous times.
They're great.
I enjoy them so much. And I think the series actually could have gone 2 more installments before they might have called it a day. That was my own personal opinion. But I know it's $1 billion franchise, that it's earned over $1 billion as a series. So bringing it back in this context, to me, is just awesome. And the way that they're approaching it with the Ocean's 8, with all the ladies now being involved, is definitely a master stroke.
Yeah.
Only small thing about it, it is a different director. Steven Soderbergh is not directing this film, as he was, I believe, the primary man responsible for the first Oceans 11, 12, and 13. He certainly had his hands all over it. Let's put it this way. I think that that's the only question mark I have. but from what I've seen, it definitely looks like something that's got to be worth watching. And I definitely think and I really think it's going to be a big hit at the box office as well. And hopefully, George Clooney makes a
Yeah.
cameo in it, and maybe it could lead back into a reinvigoration of the Ocean series as a whole.
I agree. And introducing these new characters probably could open up future films to include characters or casts from all the movies. Uh, so I think it's brilliant to have a cast of all women. I think it's a great idea. And again, I'm going to see this movie because I know the pedigree there. The Ocean's movies are clever, they're fun to watch. There's good twists and turns in them. There's always a level of suspense. And on that alone, on that pedigree alone, I'm definitely going to make it a point to go see it.
I know there's one movie left you got
Oh,
on your
yeah.
mind as far as the movies you need to see when it comes to the summer box office season. So lay it on me, man. What's that final film you've got on your mind when it comes to movies to watch this summer?
Well, as I was sitting in my comfortable chair waiting for the Avengers movie to start, they showed a preview for Mission Impossible. And it has this incredible motorcycle chase scene through Paris. I ride a motorcycle, and just watching that preview, I knew I was going to have to go watch this film. Now, Mission Impossible, you know what you're getting. It is huge explosions and gigantic stunts and things that are a little over the top, which isn't always what draws me to a movie, but when I'm watching that motorcycle chase, I knew I was going to have to go see this movie.
It is looking really strong again for a series that might at this point in time have been played out. When it comes to other
Sure.
series like Transformers, I'll just name that out there. By
Mhm.
the time it got to this iteration of the series, people were just like, okay, I've had enough. But when it comes to Mission Impossible, Fallout looks really good. Like you said, the stunts, the explosions, Tom Cruise almost killed himself on one of those stunts. If you look more into it as far as the stories are concerned, behind one of those stunts, he actually, I think, not destroyed, but he badly hurt himself in the
Mm.
process of making one of those stunts that actually it remains in the film.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm
Wow.
definitely interested in seeing Mission Impossible Fallout, and not for the fact that it's Henry Cavill's mustache, which completely had to be edited out of Justice League. That's probably one of the reasons, that may be for some one of the reasons why they want to see it. But I actually want to see it because I have seen all the Mission Impossibles. I've truly
Uh-huh.
enjoyed them, and I cannot wait to add Fallout to that list.
Yeah, you know what you're getting. And that's another franchise where you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's a good guy, who's a bad guy. There's always suspense. Edge of your seat is something you mentioned earlier. I think this is going to be one of those edge of your seat movies. Looks like it's going to be one of those movies that's entertaining from start to finish.
Indeed, I can't agree with you more on that.
So how
I
about you? What
well,
what are
what?
what are some of the movies that you're gonna make it a point to go see this summer?
Funny you should ask that, and I'll break it down real quickly for everyone out there. I'm going to start off with Incredibles 2, which I had
Okay.
indicated a couple weeks ago as being the sequel to my favorite Pixar movie.
Hmm.
Incredibles, the first one was truly a great experience to watch. I still enjoy it to this very day, and I'm so excited to see this role reversal that there is now going to
Yeah.
happen when it comes to Incredibles 2.
Yeah. Yeah. That should be a good one. You're right. That first movie, it was a great movie. It was a fun movie to watch. It was heartwarming. Um, uh, a family sticking together and making it happen. And now you're right, the role reversal. It should be interesting.
It is going to be interesting indeed, and definitely another hit for Pixar on the way. Deadpool 2 is
Mm.
another movie that's coming out this May. I mean, it's a sequel to a big surprise at the box office when the original came out. Now it adds the element of Josh Brolin stepping out of the Thanos makeup and into the Cable makeup. And it was funny, the other day I was at the cable company myself, ironically, and the Goonies played out. The Goonies was playing,
That's
and
great.
I just, as out of nowhere, about two or three people, including me, forgot and just remember just right there,
Oh yeah.
Josh Brolin starred in the Goonies, and we're
Oh
just like
yeah.
Thanos, Thanos, Thanos.
Yeah.
So, but I will go back to Deadpool 2 as being something that people have been waiting for. Ryan Reynolds gets in. It's going to be a great opportunity. Now he's got a whole crew behind him, and
Yeah.
just cannot wait to see that movie. It's going to be hilarious. I know I'm going to be laughing. I know I'm going to be laughing from beginning to end on that
Oh
one.
yeah. Oh yeah.
The Equalizer 2. Actually, I've seen the movie with Denzel Washington previously, and I enjoyed it. Although, like I said in the preview that we were just talking about earlier, he's going to kill a lot of people, and that's what it's all about. People are just going to see him knocking off one bad guy after the other, because that's what he's best at doing as the Equalizer. Definitely, it's a straightforward Denzel Washington beat up kill the bad guy, kill the bad guy fest, and nobody does it better than the Equalizer. And definitely, it's more the same Equalizer 2. Will it be a strong John Wick story structure? Be something that definitely could match up well with John Wick 2, because that movie came out and surprised a lot of audiences with how good that one is. I hope that this will do the same. Any thoughts on it? Or
actually, you were breaking up during most of that, so I didn't actually.
Any thoughts on the Equalizer 2?
I haven't seen the first one yet. I'm kind of familiar with the movie. I know he's a ex-CIA agent, and there are plenty of bad guys to kill. So I haven't seen it yet, but based on your glowing impressions of it, I think I have to watch it.
It's right now a lot. I think it's on FX and here in North America. And if you get a chance to see it, or just rent it at Redbox or what have you, be there as well if it is, or however you get it. It's definitely a good watch, and hopefully hopefully the sequel will be more of the same.
Cool.
Sicario 2 is something I also want to see. I just saw Sicario, the original, about 3 weeks ago. I was very impressed by it. I was sorry that I didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters. Emily Blunt is not in this movie, but it's going to have, again, Josh Brolin sitting in the lead as far as that's concerned, along with the guy presumably he kills, the Collector in the Infinity War. Hold on, sorry.
Benicio del Toro.
Yes, Benicio del Toro, who we think got killed in the Infinity War by Josh Brolin. I mean, it's like Kevin Bacon here. It's like all roads lead seven. What is it? Seven steps to Kevin Bacon, 7 steps to Josh Brolin in this case. So
it's the summer of Josh Brolin, ladies and gentlemen.
It is. He's going to be making out like a bandit, I tell you. But he's back in Sicario 2. So is Benicio del Toro, and they were ruthless in this movie, and I enjoyed it. Now they're going to start an all-out war against the drug cartels in this movie, and I definitely want to see it and make it a definite watch on my list.
Absolutely. I fully intend to see every Josh Brolin movie this summer.
So there you go. That includes Sicario 2. So I think it's Day of the Soldado, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So definitely check that out. My last movie is kind of a surprise, and I didn't mention it in our preview, and I kind of kept it a secret for a reason. And that is on July 11th. It's going to be on a Sunday. It's a re-release. It's going to be in limited theaters. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be limited theaters, but if you get a chance to check it out, it is the re-release of the Beatles' Yellow Submarine.
Oh, I didn't know that they were going to re-release that and show
it. So I'm assuming since it's re-released, it's been digitally retouched.
Yeah.
And a movie that was, I thought, on my old 80s or 1970s, 1980s colored TV that was horrible to look at or whatnot, still was enjoyable to watch, and the colors popped out at that point in time on that. Just imagine if it's been redone digitally and how it will look on the big screen. The Yellow Submarine by the Beatles was I've only seen it a couple times in my life because it's been really hard to catch, but I enjoyed it so much. And I tell you what, it is truly something that is special. And maybe I may take my girls to it to have them better understand what the Beatles are and who the Beatles were and what the phenomenon was all about. But it definitely is something that if you're familiar with the band, if you're a longtime fan of the band, or even as someone you just want to know more about that time frame that the Beatles were so huge in, you should check out the re-release of The Yellow Submarine when it hits theaters in probably a limited fashion on July the 11th.
Wow, good call on that one. Yeah, you threw me a curveball.
Well, what do you think about that, man?
I if it is anywhere near me, I probably will see it. I saw it was a couple of years ago. Led Zeppelin's "Song Remains the Same" was put in theaters, and of course I went to watch it, and it was great. I'm a huge Zeppelin fan. I still listen to Led Zeppelin. I don't listen to the Beatles as much anymore, but there was a time in my life when I was in high school where we all just caught on to the Beatles. Like it is such good music. It's timeless music. 50, 100 years from now, somebody's going to plug in a Beatles song and they're going to love it. I mean, the music is just so good. And the prospect of them re-releasing Yellow Submarine, touching it up a little bit for the next generation, I think that's awesome.
Well, like I said, it's been rare to find as far as an entity that's out there to view. So unless you actually bought it in some form or fashion, so it just really doesn't get distributed very much to the public, and for some odd reason or whatnot. Maybe it's legal, maybe what have you. But definitely, this is an opportunity to see it in the on the big screen, and I definitely think if you got to. And I think if you have the chance to do so, you should catch it on the big screen just to understand that part of history as far as the Beatles when they took over and became probably the biggest entity on the planet.
Probably,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, those are our thoughts on the summer box office movie season. If you have thoughts on what movies you'd like to see that weren't on our list, share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, Game Source, and Fantasy Football Pater Podcast on Facebook and Twitter as well. Any last thoughts before we go out, my friend?
It's been a couple of hours since Infinity Wars ended, and I just want to watch it again.
That's probably the best way to definitely close out our thoughts on Infinity War. I mean, definitely, and that's probably the best way right there. And I just can't blame you at all. And I definitely agree. And I agree with you that Infinity War is a must watch again on the theaters, even if you've seen it already.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. I'm wanting more. I cannot wait till the next movie comes out. And Ant-Man and Wasp is going to be a nice something to kind of get us through. But oh man, it was just so incredible. Everything about it. I loved it. Can't wait to see it again.
Neither can I. My friend, I want to thank you so much for filling in for the evaporated, probably into the soul stone, Josh Peterson. Hopefully he will materialize. And if not, great to have you here, my friend, as always, because I know you'll always fill in for him. And definitely it's great always as well to have you part of the show.
Always a pleasure to be on. And it's a great pleasure to be a part of the PCC.
You are as well a part of the team, and definitely just so great to have you part of the Pop Culture Cosmos. For Tyler Baker, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day right here. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.